Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and today we're going to be going over the 2019 Shelby GT350. So first and foremost, a special shout out and thank you to Larry H. Miller Ford Lincoln here in Draper, Utah for providing us with the vehicle to review today. As always, we're going to do a quick walk around the vehicle. Sadly, we will not be taking it out to drive. I don't really feel comfortable driving it anyways because, I mean, look at that front splitter. It'll literally scrape on everything. But also, I imagine whoever buys this car does not want any miles put on it. And then if you are stopping for the first time, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe. Under the hood here, we have a naturally aspirated 5.2 liter V8. It has a flat plane crank, so it revs to over 8,000 RPMs. That goes through a 6-speed Tremec manual transmission. In terms of power outputs, it's gonna be good for 526 horsepower and then 429 pound-feet of torque. So that is completely unchanged from when they originally released the Shelby. Note the air intake, and then you can see up here we have carbon fiber composite for this front end, just to lighten things up a little bit. If you're wondering what this color is called, it is magnetic metallic, and then you'll note that you can get stripes on the 350R. This one does not have any stripes, and then you can see a little venting there to release heat on the hood. Now everything on the front end is pretty much changed from the regular Mustang, so everything in front of that pillar right here, this is all changed. It's lower than a regular Mustang, and you can just see how low and aggressive the car actually is. Just like with all the Mustangs, you have the little LED accent lights right there, LED projector bulbs, and then you've got the turn signal that's just down below. But you can just see how big the openings are on the front here to feed all that air into that 5.2 liter V8, especially when you're revving it all the way to red line. So one of the easiest ways to tell a 350R from a 350 is that the 350R will have red badges, unless someone rebadged their 350, which please don't do that. And then another way is the front splitter. So if you get a regular 350, that little part right here, you'll have that, and then you'll have the front splitter that'll be just under it, but it ends at like the same point, whereas this front splitter on the 350R comes out a couple inches, so that's gonna have more downforce, looks a lot more aggressive, also is gonna scrape on pretty much everything. Moment of silence for this front splitter for whoever buys this. This is the last time that you'll feel it smooth underneath. But yeah, extra downforce, and I mean, you can see how much more aggressive it makes the front end of the car look. So one of the key characteristics of the 350Rs is the rims. So they're full carbon fiber rims. They are 19-inch in the front and the rear with the rim setup. That just makes it so the unsprung mass is a lot lighter, so you can corner faster, all that kind of stuff. And then the tires, you're gonna have 305s in the front and then 315s in the rear. The regular 350 has 305s in the rear and then 295s up front, so a little bit wider tires. And then you'll note that the brake calipers on the 350R are gonna be painted red. They're Brembos. They're Brembos on the 350, but they are usually painted silver on the 350s, and then you can see the Michelin tires. They are so aggressive, so you won't get a ton of mileage out of these tires, but on a warm day like this, they will literally stick on everything, and you'll be able to take this around corners like there's no tomorrow. So right here we have the GT350 badging. There is no R on this, so it just says GT350, so that's not really one of the characteristics to tell if it's a 350 or 350R. And then you can see little venting right here just to release heat. And then down the side, we've got a little side skirt right there just for extra aerodynamics. Some people will actually put little like flaps here to block it because these are rock collectors for sure. And then obviously it'll scrape the side of the car, but then you're messing with the aerodynamics. So that's up to you. But again, looks cool stylistically and then also functional. Now this is my favorite part of the 350 and the 350R, and I think this on the 350R looks a lot nicer. So we have the quad tip exhaust setup, which is on the 350 and the 350R. It is an active exhaust system, so you can close the valves or open the valves. Obviously the close will be a little bit quieter and the open will be substantially louder. And then you can see all of the heat releasing back here with the rear diffuser. And then you've got the signature LED taillights right here on all of the Mustangs. And then again, more red badging to show that this is a 350R, little backup camera right there. And then this is the cool part. So this is the spoiler on the 350R, and I literally think this makes the whole car aesthetically, that looks so awesome. But it is a carbon fiber spoiler, and this provides a substantial amount of downforce. I read something like it has more downforce on the rear end because of the spoiler than a GT3 or something like that. I might be wrong, but it looks cool, and again, functional for the racetrack. While we are out back here, here's the key fob for the 350R. So you got a couple functions. You've got your unlock, and then you have your lock function, and then you do have your tailgate release as well, so just press that twice and that will open up the tailgate. And then if we walk over here to the tailgate, so you just pick this part up right there, and the trunk will open up. So it has about the same amount of storage space as all of the Mustangs back here. See the little floor mats back there? You note that there are no rear seats in the 350R, so you can't fold that down. You can fold down the seats in the 350, so from a practicality standpoint, that's something to consider. And then under here, just to fix a flat kit, they're not gonna put a spare tire in a race car because that's just gonna add too much weight. And note when the trunk is open, you can see how they've done the split and everything. It's not close to touching or anything like that, but that's something that manufacturers always have to take into consideration when they make rear spoilers, is the back with the trunk and making sure that all works. Oh, and I did forget to mention, there is a trunk release right there, so you press that, and then that will also unlock the trunk from the rear in the 350 and the 350R and every other Mustang ever too. Well, I don't know why this was open, but for some reason this gas cap was open, so let's go over this capless gas system. And yeah, you just press that and that'll open or close the gas cap in the 350. Now around the side here, you've got keyless entry. So one touch to lock it, and then to unlock it, you just have to put your hand on the back of the door handle, and then we can open this up to see the front door panel. Note that you've got some Alcantara right here with stitching, and then you've got some soft padding right there. All of your window controls are actually right here on the 350. And then you can see your regular door lock and unlock and then door handle. This will look all identical to the Mustang other than the Alcantara right there. So looking back here, like I said, there are no rear seats, and that is to save weight. So they just have this kind of like padding thing back here, so you could kind of use it as a shelf, but you wouldn't want to put something too heavy on it to break it. And so there's no seat belts or anything like that, but again, race car, so they're trying to save weight as much as they can. Now onto these front seats. So the 350R will actually have R badging on the seats. You can see that. These are Recaro seats, so you've got this little thing to put your seat belt through. Fully red in the 350Rs, which I think is a nice touch. So it's kind of cloth on the outside, and then it's suede on the inside part of the seat, and the bolsters are very, very aggressive, so it's actually hard to get in and out of because of this bolster on this seat, and so be careful of that because you'll rub on it and wear it down a lot. And then the bolster on here is pretty high as well, so these seats hold you in place really well. And then you can see it's fully manually adjustable. There is no power adjustment on these seats at all. You have to get the comfort seats, which you can only get in the 350, so 350R racing seats. Now we can see the 3-pedal layout just down below. Since this is a manual, that's the only transmission option that you can get in the 350 and the 350R. We've got the little trunk release right here, and then we have the light controls right there, and then the controls for the lights on the gauge cluster. And then note that this is all carbon fiber trim on the interior here. I think that looks really, really good. And then the steering wheel is manually adjustable, but the adjustment's on the other side of the steering wheel. So stepping into the 350R, step in height's actually pretty low, and like I said, this bolster, it's kind of hard to get around, so you have something you have to get used to. But to start it up, you just have to put into the clutch right here, and then you push that, and then that'll start it right up. And then note that the valves will be closed initially until you press that to open them up. So sitting here in the 350R, we can see there's a bunch of different controls here on the steering wheel. So you've got the little Shelby Cobra there in the center, and then the red marker is another thing on the 350R. The 350s will just have a black marker here, and then you get red stitching here on the 350R. Full Alcantara steering wheel, except for the bottom parts leather, so it's not technically full, sorry. But yeah, really, really grippy in your hands, and the suede feels nice in your hands as well. But we can see the different controls on it. So you've got regular like controls for the volume and all of that, so kind of like functional stuff, Bluetooth controls, and then this is for the center screen right there. So these controls control the little center stack. And then we've got some controls for the different drive modes, suspension setup, and then steering setup. We'll go over those in a minute. And then we have more controls for the phone controls, and then you actually do have cruise control, which I hope you never use that in your 350R. Now we've got the gauge cluster set up right here, so you can see over there we have the tachometer, and note that the red line is over 8,000 RPMs, and then you've got the temperature gauge, and then the other side you've got the speedo, which goes up to 200 miles an hour, and then note it's almost at half a tank, but it's got 117 miles to empty. And then here's that little center screen, so there's a couple bits of different information you can scroll through. So you've got like the gauge mode right there, and you can see all the different gauges that you can actually see on the 350R. And then if you go for the trip and fuel economy, you can see that as well right here, which, wow, average 5.6 miles per gallon. miles per gallon in this actually. But you can see that there's a couple things that are pretty neat that you can do here. So you can do like line lock if you want to do burnouts, and then you got like lap timer. There is launch control. All that really does in the 350 and 350R is it holds the RPMs at what you have it set at, so you can floor the brake, or sorry, not the brake, the gas. You can floor the gas. It'll hold it at the RPMs that you have it set at in the launch control tab, and then it'll, once you drop the clutch, then it'll launch, and then you have like the exhaust set up. You can set that all up right there. Driving assistance right here. So actually does have blind spot monitoring now, which is neat. You can see that in the mirror right there. And then cross traffic alert, so keep you safe in your track focused Shelby. Now we've got the hallmark gauges here. So we've got the circular vents and then the circular gauges, oil pressure, and then oil temperature. If you own a 350, you know what I mean when you're always having to watch this gauge when you're driving hardcore with the oil temperature, just saying. And then I love the carbon fiber trim in this. The carbon fiber trim, fantastic. This particular 350R has the air conditioning and the infotainment stuff all added back in. That's actually a package to add this stuff back in. But this is the Sync 3 system. So you can see that it's really responsive and it's easy to use in general. Have a valet mode. You probably use that if you ever let anyone touch your vehicle. But you can see that there's a couple different tabs that you can scroll through. It's just really easy to use in general, but this is where you do your texting, calling, Bluetooth. Everything is going to be done via that touchscreen. And then just down below, we have our analog controls for the radio, and then it does have a dual zone climate here, so you know that you can customize all that there. So that's kind of like a creature comfort in the 350R. And then just down below, these are all the fun buttons, actually. Really, really fun. So we've got our exhaust button, so you can flip this up to switch between the normal and the sport mode with the valves on the exhaust to make it quieter or louder. Launch control, turn that on or off. Stability control, hazard lights when you crash your Mustang into a crowd and need to let everyone know, and then your engine stop start button. So now that we've gone over this little exhaust button, let's actually go over the drive modes, which are on the steering wheel. So we can see the little gauge cluster settings in here. So you see there's a normal mode and there's a sport, which will open up the valves. And then you've got track, which turn off the stability control and open up the valves, and you've got to read the owner's manual to do that. Drag strip mode, if you plan on drag racing this, when really not, it's not really a straight line car in general. And then you have a slippery mode, which with the tires that this car has, hopefully you never drive this in the snow or rain, because you'll probably not live to see another day. Anyways, and then you've got the damper modes, which you can switch between normal and sport. But no, if you go over into track mode, then you can switch, sorry to pop up the owner's manual again. Anyways, then you can switch between track and sport mode. So the dampers, there's 3 different modes, but you have to be in different modes to be able to go through those different damper settings. And with the steering, you can activate all of them. So you got comfort, normal, and sport. Sport, you can see that it's really stiff. And then if you go into, oh, sorry, steering. I meant steering, I'm sorry. If you go into comfort, lightens up a ton. And then if you go to normal, it's right there, but sport definitely feels the best with the steering. Now here is the shifter for that 6-speed automatic, and the top is very hot because it's really hot outside. But 6 gears on this, and then it's actually a pull up to go in the reverse. So I'm putting my foot in the clutch, obviously, and putting it into reverse. You can see the backup camera will pop up. It's got trajectory lines, and then it's got little lines in there that'll turn with the steering wheel as well. But really easy shifter to use, really, really short throws, and it's notchy, so it's easy to get into the gears. And then over in this area, you've got your little cup holders, and then you've got your e-brake right there. And then in this area, you've got the little center console thing with the stitching on it. And then if we open this up, we can see there's a little USB and a 12 volt and some storage here. So this is kind of, what you're gonna use is kind of like a secondary-ish glove box, if that makes sense. Because if we go over the glove box over here, we can see same size as in all of the other Mustangs. So it's a decent amount of storage space. More carbon fiber trim above. I love this carbon fiber trim. I need carbon fiber trim in my life. Anyways, and then as with all of the 350 and 350Rs, you'll get your plaque with the little chassis number on it, and then since it's a 350R, this will be red, and then that will have an R on it compared to the regular 350, which won't have that. So up here we have all of our light controls. Cannot get a sunroof on the 350 or 350R. You wouldn't want extra weight on the top of the car since it's supposed to be a track focused car. You do get universal garage door openers though, so neat little feature that is practical. Wrapping things up on the interior on the 350R, I really like it. I love these Recaro bucket seats. As you guys know, I had a 350 and I had these Recaro seats. They're actually really comfortable. You can go on long road trips in them very comfortably. No issues at all. And they actually stay pretty neutral temperature-wise in general. But The thing that I love about this 350R, other than the exterior stuff and the added performance since it has more aero than the 350, is this carbon fiber trim on the interior. I'm gonna keep mentioning it because it looks beautiful. Look at the carbon fiber glistening in the sunlight. But anyways, this is usually when I say let's go drive the car. We're not gonna be driving the car, so let's actually look at the price. So finally, I have a window sticker that's visible on the outside and I don't have to rip it off the window. So you can see the fuel economy numbers here. Like I said, it's miles per gallon, not miles per gallon. But you can see all of the regular stuff that comes. The 350R is an optional package, so it is the 920A package, and then that adds the R, and then the wheels, and then the carbon fiber wing. And then you can see the stuff that this has added on top of that, so adding in a lot of the safety stuff back on. And this one actually has a black roof, which I forgot to mention earlier, but I should have, sorry. But here's a black roof, guys. Anyways, you can see the total MSRP. That's before any market adjustment. Typically on the 350s and the 350Rs, you go above MSRP, just like with the Raptors, but there's the total price before any sort of market adjustment. And then note, this will have a gas guzzler tax because 16 miles per gallon average between highway and around town is abysmal. And there we have it, everyone, the 2019 Shelby GT350R. Thank you everyone so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And then again, a big shout out and thank you to Larry H. Miller Ford Lincoln here in Draper, Utah, for providing us with this vehicle. If you're on the market for a new Ford, especially a Shelby GT350, they've got one for you. Definitely check these guys out. As always, if you're stopping for the first time, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe, comment down below what you thought, and then I will see all of you in that next video.